Hey, what's up guys? My name is Michael Westbrook. As always, thank you for watching. I am a full-time musician, producer, engineer. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Most of my time lately has been spent on the road with an artist named Crowder as a multi-instrumentalist, playing guitar and pedal steel and banjo and all kinds of stuff. Today's video is the third part in a 7-part course that I am putting up here on YouTube. Previously, this course was offered for sale, but I'm currently moving it all to YouTube for free. If you haven't seen the first two videos, definitely go check those out. They're talking about kind of big ideas, foundational ideas that I reference throughout the upcoming videos. Today's video, we're kind of diving in into some tracks that I've created here on YouTube for different demos or different videos, and I'm kind of picking those apart. We're jumping in the sessions, taking a look at the different parts and why they work and kind of what I was thinking about as I was creating those tracks. No matter if you're recording or playing live or whatever you're doing, playing with other people, these ideas are going to help you sound better and be a better player that plays more musical. Welcome to part 3. This is basically the culmination of everything that we've talked about up until this point. We're going to take the ideas that we talked about in parts 1 and 2 and build on those, introduce some new ideas and concepts, and talk about how all these things work together within the context of a track. We're going to take a listen to a few different tracks and then open up the session and kind of go through the different parts and discuss how a lot of these ideas play out in a real world scenario. How we're using these ideas and concepts to create what I like to call interlocking parts, or parts that all fit together and work together but don't step on each other and don't create clutter, but they all have their own unique space. So this one is from my video is using a capo cheating, and this has a lot of good examples of being aware of the range that the parts are sitting in so that they all have their own space. Obviously, because I'm using a capo on all the parts, it automatically puts the guitar in different areas and different ranges. So even at the very beginning, we've got an acoustic guitar that's there are 3 different tracks of it. They're all kind of playing a similar part, but they're all in different ranges. And this is kind of the idea of doubling a part, but doubling it in different areas on the guitar. And it just helps create a really wide sound. Here's what the acoustics sound like at the beginning. Now, there's obviously some overlap in the notes that each part is playing, and it's all the same part, so it's kind of the idea of doubling a part in slightly different ranges. But when they all come together, it kind of sounds like one part, but just makes it a broader and fuller sound. This next section we're going to talk about is kind of the main A section, and the parts that I want to focus on are the picking guitar parts. There's 2 of them. They're pretty similar as far as they're both kind of cleaner single coil guitars, but I've varied the tone on one that has kind of this chorus vibrato sound in it that really helps differentiate it from the other sound. They're also in slightly different ranges, and at the very end they could kind of land in the same spot, but I paid close attention and made sure that they were landing on complementary notes at the very end. Now they're very close, but it makes a nice harmony at the end. So even though these parts are really close, we're still doing our best to kind of differentiate what range they're falling into. So another big idea that we haven't talked a whole lot about is doubling parts. We're going to go to the B section of this song, and there's a pretty aggressive guitar that kind of serves as the main melody for this part. And I doubled it, but not with another guitar. I doubled it with some synth parts. And the reason for this is it kind of reinforces that melody, but also because these synths are stereo, it makes it broader and wider. This also brings up an important point when we're dealing with parts in the context of a song. All of these types of parts that we've talked about and the roles that these different parts serve, they don't always have to be a guitar. And a lot of times in a lot of settings, they're not going to be. There maybe be keys or even horn parts, But we're trying to think about all of these parts together as a whole, whether they're guitars or not, and vary our parts based on what else is going on musically. Here's this B section. So now let's take a listen to just the synth parts without the guitar, because the synth parts are kind of pulled back so that the guitar is in the forefront, and the synth parts are just kind of helping reinforce that and kind of, just smooth things out and make it sound real nice. Here are just the synths. I really like the one synth that kind of swells on that last note, and it kind of matches the decay of the guitar. And so we get this effect of that note kind of lasting longer than it did. It just kind of helps carry that note out a little more. Now we're going to go to the very end, and we're going to listen to all the parts all at once. Without the bass and drums, and then I've also taken out the acoustics. The acoustics are just creating a really nice bed under here, a nice rhythmic bed. But for this, we're just going to listen to the electric parts, and then the synth parts are in there as well, because we're kind of thinking about all of those parts together and how they work together. So obviously we have a lot going on there. We've got some brand new rhythm guitars that come in with just kind of big whole notes. They're doing a little more at certain parts of the phrases, but they're really just adding support, and they really help this section lift and feel different. For the most part, it's really similar to the first section. It's the same, a lot of the same parts, but we're introducing other parts to just kind of lift this section. The main parts that are coming in that are different are these big rhythm guitars. That's a Les Paul and a Tele, panned hard left and right, just playing the exact same thing. Kind of similar tones, but differentiating the parts with, the different guitars, creating a slightly different tone. And then another part that kind of stands out is the string part. That's kind of these stabs. And that just adds some rhythmic interest, kind of just helps, introduce something new. But because they're short, they're kind of staying out of the way a good bit. I'm going to solo out a couple of other parts so we can talk about those. We'll just listen to those. So here, the main melody guitar from the B section is just kind of playing the chords going along with the rhythm part, but it's in a higher range. So it's just kind of helping fill that out. And then we have this other guitar part that's really high and kind of sparkly and has, some delay and reverb on it. And that's just kind of giving us another part of the spectrum, right? We're kind of differentiating that and putting it up really high so that it stays out of the way of some of the main parts that are kind of that mid-range picking part. Again, all of these parts, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are kind of 5 parts, and a number of those are doubled. So, I mean, there's, we're talking about almost probably 10 different guitar parts, with the synth parts introduced as well. But they all kind of have their own area, their own space. We're differentiating things with our tones, with our range. And we're also doing something this idea that we're kind of introducing in this part of the course, and that's creating our interlocking parts. It's this idea of call and response, or in a lot of ways, I like to think of it as kind of this phrase of passing the ball, right? The attention of the listener is getting kind of passed between parts. We heard in the first section, and then the parts are doing the same thing in this, where the picking parts are kind of alternating, right? One part plays, and then the kind of chorus vibrato picking part picks up in there, and they're kind of passing that attention of the listener back and forth. And for me, this is kind of taking the idea of long and short parts and combining them together. We've got a more rhythmic part, and then it kind of takes a rest and holds out a note. And while it's holding out a note, another part comes in with a short part or a more rhythmic part that draws your attention in and serves as kind of the melody and the focal point.